this episode of Style Woodbridge. I'm your host, Samantha Roth, and on today's episode, I'm very excited to announce a new series we're going to be doing about self-love. So this is a topic that I've been seeing, first of all, as a major trend recently since the new year began. People are making this an all-inclusive thing rather than just getting involved in nutrition or fitness or things like that. It's more just making yourself better, and part of that is by taking care of yourself. So here to help us learn some fun tips and tricks about how to go about starting out a more loving relationship with yourself, I have in studio Samantha Cifelli, who is a spiritual life and nutrition coach. Samantha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So spiritual life and nutrition coach, what is that? Like just on the bare surface level?
So in simplest terms, I pretty much just teach self-empowerment and self-love, and I have different techniques and methods, but primarily through talk therapy and nutrition counseling as well.
Awesome. So how did you get involved with something like this?
Well, it goes back to my education in nutrition. So my bachelor's is in nutrition and dietetics, and I'm finishing up my master's right now in nutrition. But just having that more Western or mainstream approach, I just felt really guided towards helping people on more of a holistic scale.
So what is the difference between like mainstream and holistic?
So holistic is more also incorporating the emotions. It's dealing with yourself as a full being rather than just dealing with your physical body. A lot of people that come to me, they'll come primarily for nutrition, but then that kind of sparks like this emotional baggage that kind of needs to be released as well. So I can help them in a more holistic approach.
So for someone, the difference between mainstream and holistic would be that they might give you like a meal plan but no actual like life coaching aspect with it?
Yeah, so I'm more about empowering the individual. It's more about, for me, it's more about nutrition education. I want to teach you how to help yourself rather than just following, set guidelines. Mm-hmm. I want you to have a full understanding of how you can help yourself.
Okay, great, definitely. So if I were a client or anyone else watching the show wanted to be a client and they came to you with the intent of working on themselves in more than just a nutritional way, how would you help a client like that?
So I have a really one-on-one approach. So every interaction is completely unique. It's very mutual. So as much as I can help you, you're also helping me as well. So it's a dualistic approach. But it really depends on the person. It depends on each client and what their situation is. I like to get a full understanding of where this person is coming from and basically empower them. Whatever they're going through, I like to help them validate their experience, especially with someone coming like with a lot of emotions that are going on, or if they're having difficulty in their relationship. A lot of people tend to kind of put resistance towards what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. They like to label their experience as, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or this is wrong to feel this way. No, I like to basically help you and validate that experience. That releases the resistance. And then I like to explain basically how, we're not here to feel in pain. We're here to grow. We're here to grow and have a really awesome experience in life. So how is each painful experience, how is that actually a way of turning that back towards yourself? How can you turn that back towards yourself and make it something that's actually quite empowering? How are you learning through this experience?
Right, and it's funny how you say that because the whole time I'm thinking nutrition, right? Mm-hmm. Because so many people that have difficulty, whether it's through an eating disorder, mm-hmm. or some, I guess that it would always be classified as an eating disorder. That means a lot of different things. Right. But someone who doesn't have a healthy relationship with food, who uses food as an emotional vice, whether it be that you're happy or you're sad or you're angry or you're lonely or you're bored, those are the things that you need to, no one can just tell you, this is what you need to eat to be better, this is the diet you need to find, these are the calories that you can't go over. You need to actually get to the heart of the root of, well, why am I eating a pint of ice cream every night?
Exactly.
Like, why do I want pizza so badly?
Exactly.
Aside from the actual addictions that those foods cause. But, so that's what I would love to talk to you about, is more just nutrition in general. Mm-hmm. Like, what is the best way to fuel your body?
just like general approaches that can apply to everybody.
Right. So if I were to come to you to ask for nutritional advice on a level of I have emotional issues and we've gotten through them, so what would your recommendations be to make my diet better?
Okay, so if we're dealing specifically with the nutrition and the diet, and that's what we're working on, I would want to have a complete understanding of what your eating habits are now. Just feel into that. I'm not really one to tell you to not eat something, because again, that creates the resistance that we're trying to release in the first place. So I like to talk about what I call focus foods. So it's basically focusing more on the good stuff. And as you do that, you feel better. Your body reacts in a better way towards that. And that's kind of the motivation that you need to keep going along that path. And then the bad stuff kind of releases on its own. So like for example, I'm really big into hydration. We are all chronically dehydrated. Yeah, so people don't really realize that. So you can eat a more hydrating diet through fruits, of course, and vegetables. Focus on that kind of stuff, and then you're not going to want to, grab the sugar or grab the fatty, greasy kind of foods, because your body's feeling so good and reacting to that proper nutrition that you're giving it.
Right. So it's so funny that you bring up hydration, because what I heard just the other day that like shocked me was the second you start to feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Oh yeah.
Like you should never feel thirsty, and that's ridiculous. I've heard I don't know if this is true, that you should consume half your body weight in ounces of water per day. Is that a good rule, or?
That's a good guesstimate, but you really just want to have water and hydration, just this focus throughout the day. We're all chronically dehydrated, so when you're actually feeling thirsty, you're very thirsty,
right,
like you're saying. Also, our body...
I'm thirsty right now.
Yeah, me too, actually. Our body also tends to misinterpret hunger signs, and that's actually telling us that we're thirsty. Okay. So a good little tip is when you're hungry, just get some water first, then see how you feel. Because we're chronically dehydrated, our body knows that it can get some sort of hydration through the food, so that's why it's actually craving food in general and sending that those hunger pangs and that feeling of hunger, because it knows that, okay, at least it can get some hydration through food, because you probably eat more than you drink,
right,
on a bigger scale. So yeah,
definitely. And that, right, and not even just in water. So that's the other thing. I feel like there's this discussion out there right now about if you need to be drinking water, or can it be tea? Does tea count? Or is the caffeine in the tea dehydrating you anyway? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I love this topic. So absolutely water, have as much water as you can. I'm a big fan of herbal teas, right, and the ones that are naturally decaffeinated. Because that's plant medicine. So whatever herbals or florals or whatever is used to kind of make the tea, you're infusing that into the water and you're getting all of those medicinal qualities. So tea is a great part of a healthy diet as well. The naturally decaffeinated teas.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So I would have to be pay more attention, more mindful of the type of tea that I'm drinking.
Just basically not black tea.
Okay.
Green tea has some caffeine, so you want to have that once in a while because you're getting the antioxidants. But there's such a wide variety of all these different
I
plant
love the
medicines.
hibiscus teas.
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
floral ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our first step, right? I'm trying to get my nutrition so I can get my mind and my body right. So I'm gonna be really focused on my hydration. Yeah. What's next?
Okay, so what else can I tell you to add to your diet? I would say greens. Greens and berries too, because that has basically, if you're talking about nutritional density, which is you're focusing on the nutrition of the food rather than paying attention to the caloric value or anything like that and labeling it that way, greens are giving you, and berries are giving you the most antioxidants, so you're fighting that cancer, you're creating a healthy body. So that's something that I really, really tell clients to focus upon. And raw berries and greens, and then do some cooked greens as well, so you can get more of that iron through that.
Right. So would you say that juicing would be a good maybe thing to add, not necessarily to go on a juice cleanse, because I feel like those can be dangerous, and also just not sustainable in a sense of, okay, great, so I did a juice cleanse for 3 days and I got all these awesome vegetables in me and I feel amazing, and now I'm going to just go back to my old life and I'm not going to be getting those raw fruits and vegetables, because at a nutritional level, you get the most nutrition out of most vegetables, not all vegetables, when they're raw. So the way that I take in my raw fruits and vegetables is I try to have at least one big juice a day that I make, with my NutriBullet. And it's nothing crazy. It's apples, kale, pears, lemon, ginger. I really like the cayenne pepper in there too now.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of my way of, like, my little tip, I guess, would be an easier way to do it quickly, and it doesn't feel like, you know, you're just sitting there eating vegetables all day.
Right.
Unless if that's what you're into.
And they taste really good. I love
tastes
those
so
drinks.
good.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to distinguish between a smoothie versus a juice.
Yes.
Because what
Very
you're actually
important.
talking about is
It's
a
a smoothie.
smoothie. Yeah, that's not a juice, but the NutriBullet you use,
Right.
it makes it a thin consistency. So
yeah.
it's
So a NutriBullet or a Ninja.
Or like a Vitamix,
anything where you're putting the vegetables into the juice before you make it, and you're not extracting the
Right.
pulp.
Right.
So it's not a physical juicer, because a physical juicer, you put your vegetables through and you literally see the pulp and the juice are separated. This is all in one. So that's a smoothie.
Right.
Whereas, like
Yeah.
you were saying with the juice. So what's not so good about straight juicing? Like,
it's not that it's bad, but it's that when you're getting that full smoothie, you're getting all the nutrients in the plant. You're consuming like the full plant or whatever is going into that. You're consuming it whole. So when you juice, you're extracting that pulp.
right.
And some of the nutrients with it, and you're only basically leaching out the water and the water-soluble vitamins, which is beneficial in itself, but why not just have the whole thing?
Right.
So I would say, you know, a mix of both, but I'm a big fan of smoothies.
Right, and especially these tools that they have.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I have my NutriBullet. They are not paying me to say their name. I hope it's okay that I use their name, but I've always been a pretty big advocate of theirs because I love how much it does pulverize it.
Yeah.
So you're not getting the grit, you're not getting the gross pulp, because it isn't pleasant all the time. That consistency isn't something people love. And like, especially if you shake it with cold ice, like before you drink it, it dissolves the pulp even more. And I think, I mean, it's probably like one of my favorite things that I have every day.
Yeah.
And it works to hydrate at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like water on steroids.
Yeah, it's actually easier for your body to absorb that way, because your cells can absorb it on a cellular level. So that's
Right.
important as well.
And that's an issue with raw food sometimes, right? Where your body can't.
Well, basically, when you're blending it all together, you're almost starting the digestive process.
Uh-huh.
So normally that would, if you're consuming a whole food, that starts in your mouth. You have the saliva, which begins to break down the starches and the sugars, and then it goes through your digestive tract. And then you absorb the minerals and the vitamins in the process. But when you're blending it all together, you're breaking it down. So it's then easier for your body to absorb it because it's already done so much of the work. So that's a really, really great tool as well.
Definitely. Okay, so we got water, we got lots of fruits and veggies.
Yeah.
What's next?
Okay, so then I want to say, if you're going to take away anything, and I don't like to be like, you know, don't eat this, but we really have a big problem with sugar and processed sugars. So I feel like there's some sort of fruit fear that's out there right now because people associate sugars with fruits.
Yes.
But there's a reason that that's sweet in the first place. It's because it's supposed to taste good, because that's natural. That's natural from, you know, Mother Earth. They want us to consume the fruits. But then with sugar that is more processed, it really just goes like straight to an addiction almost.
Right. Yeah, so that's
So
a big
detox.
thing that people don't realize. Where my big thing after Christmas this year, I've been very good. I'm gotta give myself a pat on the back. I'm finally reaching this point of self-love where I feel like I know what I have to do. I don't do it every day, and when I don't do it, I definitely feel the repercussions, but I'm finally getting to a point where I'm growing, which is great. But the Christmas cookies nearly killed me this year. I don't know what it, I do know what it is. It's the sugar.
Yeah.
So I was being so good from like the beginning of the summer until Christmas, because even Thanksgiving I was fine. Christmas comes, I start eating these cookies, and it's the first thing I'm thinking of in the morning when I'm waking up is cookies for breakfast. In what world? Like, and I don't even technically like sugar in the mornings, right? So when I'm being healthy, I don't want anything super sweet in the morning. It makes me sick. And I was eating these cookies, and it was making me sick, and I'm gaining weight, and I'm miserable, and I'm just like, this. The only way to describe it is as an addiction.
Yeah, it's very, very, very addictive.
And it's easy to see how that can happen to a lot of people, and if you're not mindful of it, it can get out of control.
Exactly, and then it's like when you stay away from it for so long, the second you reintroduce it, it's like your body goes back into that state where it just wants it and starts craving it again. But you don't actually feel good about it. It's just like the superficial high.
100%. It's wild.
Yeah.
Like what can happen if you just start being more mindful of the foods you're
Absolutely.
eating and what's in them. What you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
So on that, we're talking about fruits and vegetables, we're talking about greens. Does it need to be organic?
Okay, so I always say do the best with what you're given. You know, you don't want to like put so much like pressure on yourself. We're trying to make positive steps. So one positive step can be organic because you're staying away from the pesticides. If something is 100% organic, then you're getting the non-GMO. So you're just getting a more natural product. But if you go from not eating any fruits and vegetables and you're having, you know, non-organic vegetables, but you're eating so much of it, it's like that's a great thing to be proud of. Exactly. So why not just make a healthy step?
Right, and I mean, it's for me, it's like what I can afford. It's like, well, how much more expensive is the organic broccoli from the non-organic broccoli, or like the bananas from the non-organic bananas? Like I find that the difference in price for the bananas isn't significant enough not to get the organic. So I'll always do that.
I have a tip for that.
What is that tip?
So for bananas especially, because the peel is so thick, when it's grown, it's not absorbing as much of the pesticide, so that's actually like a safer conventional food item.
To not have as being organic.
Yeah, like if
so that's why they make it not that much more expensive.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, right? But the thicker the peel, so something like berries, it's so thin.
Right.
So that would be more something to be mindful of to get organic.
Right, okay.
But also with conventional, you could just do like a vinegar wash, just some white vinegar, let it soak in the sink, and that kind of drains out the pesticides as well.
Right. So the other confusion that I have sometimes is like, well, if it's not organic and I'm washing it really well, is that just as good as being organic?
I would say not just as good. I would say if you're using the vinegar, it would be pretty close.
Okay.
Like a vinegar water wash.
Because it doesn't like absorb. I'm just always assuming that it's absorbing that, like the chemicals, and then it's like literally within its cells.
You're helping yourself out if you do like a wash.
Okay.
Yeah, if you do a nice wash.
Right.
It's not going to be the same just because of the whole growing practice is much different.
Right.
But you're helping yourself out in that way.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So water, fruits and veg. And then
sugar. Detox from sugar.
Right, detox from the sugar. I don't want to remember because I don't want to do it. But all right, so no sugar, or not no sugar, but detox. So what are some healthier sugars, right? Because it's the Splendas and the Equal, and like that's the stuff that we were told was so good for us, and then we realize it's full of aspartame and that it's not good for you.
Yeah, and it's still treating the same problem that you have. You're just replacing it with like another chemical.
Right, you're still addicted to it.
Right.
It's just not sugar. So what I do is, I don't really do sugar much anyway, but in my house I have sugar because other people come over, they want sugar and coffee, things like that. So I get like the organic sugar cane, and that's what I do. I know a lot of people really like stevia. Personally, I get that chemical taste in my mouth when I eat stevia.
A lot of people do.
And I don't know if it has to do with the way it's being made. Maybe it's not being processed as naturally as it was prior. Because when I was really young, my dad used to have it actually in a vial, and we would put drops of that in our tea, and it was like a very natural form, and I never felt like that was chemical or anything like that. And then they came out with the stevia packets, and I got them, and I ended up never using them.
Are you talking about Truvia maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the difference?
Yes.
Truvia is more processed than stevia. Stevia is the more natural option.
Okay.
So that would be a wiser choice. I would say if you really feel like you need something and you're trying to stay strictly away from sugar, I would say stevia is your best bet in terms of like, having like those little packets and just something you can add to your coffee.
Right.
But in terms of like natural sweeteners,
right.
Of course, the fruit, which we already talked about. Also, raw honey. I'm a really big fan of raw honey because it's almost like medicine. It's very medicinal. Right. It has so many healing qualities to it. And then also, like raw agave would be a good option for someone who's really paying attention to their sugar levels because, and if it's something that you want to consume on a more consistent basis, because it doesn't spike your sugar as much.
That's great. Going back to the honey, though, so the local honey, if you can get it, is actually the best because those bees are pollinating with the allergens local to your environment, right?
Exactly.
So do you know anything about how that works, like chemically in the body, or is it just...
Well, it's basically just what you said. Like it's, so then the way that it's pollinated, it's almost like the best adaptogenic for your body because you're basically like training your immune system. So it's basically just helping your immune system, but it's like more specific to you because it's from a local source.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we have new sweeteners, lots of veg and fruit, and we got our water. So far, these are doable things, right? I wouldn't say that anyone can't do that. So what would be another step?
So I'm inclined to talk about like mindfulness. And we touched a little bit about that, but just like listening to your body. When you have cravings, see what you're really looking for, because some are going to be really coming from that addictive place. So if you're craving pure sugar, you know that that's not what your body actually wants. It's just like that addiction that's coming into play right now. But as you go along your healing journey, you're going to start to have cravings for things that you actually do want. Like you might have specifically a craving for berries or for various pieces of produce. So I would just say continue to listen to your body. When you do have like a sugar craving or like a fatty craving, see if you can remedy that with a more healthful option. So for example, have an avocado if you're craving fat. So that's like a healthy fat source. And then if you're having sugar, you know, fruits, of course, but that's hard for people to kind of like get their head around. But even just making like a makeover recipe where you're making it yourself, you're making a more healthful treat. But maybe you can make like a black bean brownie, for example, something like that. So it's like you're working with yourself.
Yes, definitely.
And that's an act of self-love too, because it's like you're honoring yourself, you're not ignoring it, but you're giving your body what it wants at the same time.
And you would be surprised by how good those recipes come out.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Spoiler alert, part of this series will be a cooking segment where I'm going to be doing things like that. Because I started doing it in my life, or even just making my own spreads. Like right now, you actually inspired me to try to make my own almond milk.
Oh, awesome.
So I just bought like a 9-pound bag of almonds.
Awesome.
So I'm going to be experimenting with that soon. But also making like a sunflower cream cheese that's like vegan, and I've been putting it on everything, making my own falafel. And it's so simple, and all of these ingredients can be used so diversely that it's almost like having these new staples in your cabinet rather than the old chemical ones. It just gives you so many more options to play in the kitchen and discover these great foods and make tacos and all this other crazy stuff that you spend so much money for at the restaurants. Like you can make that in your own home, and it's 10 times healthier and more affordable.
I love that. I really do, because it's like sparking that creativity, but you're also getting that relationship with yourself through food. Yeah. So, you know, it's so easy to just go to fast food and get something real quick, or get a quick donut or something, but it's like, what are you really doing for yourself? You're just satisfying like this, you know, quick little craving that you have, rather than if you're putting the time and the energy into your health, your body's going to respond to that as well. Right.
Yeah, and making the food, it's like that whole concept of it was made with love. That's a real thing, you know. It was a saying, but on a more higher thinking level, it's real. Yeah. That's an actual thing.
Yeah, our body responds to that.
Yeah. Okay, so any other tips?
I mean, we talked about mindfulness, we talked about just like paying attention. I mean, I think to just kind of stem off the cooking, I think that's really good. Like grow a relationship with your food, make the effort, be prepared to, like when you go to the grocery store, make that a healthy habit for yourself, make that something that's necessary for you, because, and also clean out the junk that you already have.
Yes.
Don't leave that temptation there for you, because you'll probably like cave in. Yeah. Whether if you have just like all these different berries or raw almonds or raw nuts that you can just easily grab, and you can actually feel good about that. You know, if you have a craving, it's okay to like give yourself what you want, but then you don't want that come down of like feeling bad about it because you ate a bag of chips or you ate some cookies and stuff. It's like, why not just grab something that you can actually feel good about?
Exactly. Yeah, and the more good stuff you have in your home compared to the bad stuff, you're more likely, like in my apartment right now, I don't have anything bad, so I don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have that.
I literally have no. If I want something bad in the middle of the night, I'm gonna have to put shoes on and go outside, and that never happens. So that's a benefit. Although I do dip into the almond butter probably a little bit more than I should be.
But that's okay.
But at least it's all natural and organic.
Yeah, that's okay.
So real quick, because we don't have that much more time, but so that's part of your nutrition coaching. Talk to me a little bit about what a life coach would do, more expansive on that, right? So we know what we're getting into our minds and our body, and we're focusing on that, and that's going to help. What are some other things that we can do to help ourselves rather than instead of our diet of mindfulness?
Okay, so every situation is very unique, so it really depends on you as an individual. But in general, always validate how you feel. Remove that judgment towards what you feel as like, this is bad. Like I was saying before, like this is bad. It's not okay for me to feel this way. Give yourself a validation, because that's a part of you and you're honoring yourself. And then how can you twist the situation and say, how can I learn more about myself through this through this, whatever I'm going through, whatever the situation is that you're going through at that time, people kind of in the world tend to reflect back our own inner insecurities. So we have to kind of deal with that. But that's also the most empowering thing in the world, because you have that control over your emotions. You have the control over yourself to grow and to feel better through it and genuinely feel better.
Definitely. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going
Yeah.
to give you a situation that I'm sure a lot of people can identify with. Driving in the car, right? You're in traffic.
Uh-oh.
People are just like all over the place. What is a tip for how to first of all, obviously you need the mindfulness to say, hey, I'm being irrationally angry and I'm stressing myself out, and I'm not, no one else, is, the guy next to me didn't feel bad because I, got mad at him. So what's a way to bring yourself back? Or is it really as simple as that, just trying to be more mindful?
Well, yeah, mindful, but I'm also feeling like just laugh. Like, it's kind of funny when you just are so stressed out, like in the middle of traffic. Like, it's really fine. Like, everything's fine. It's just like
fine.
Everything's fine. It's just in your mind. So like, laughter is so healing. Laughter is so healing. It boosts our immune system. It relieves stress. So that's just feeling joy and feeling pure joy in that moment. So how can you twist a situation to find the humor in it?
Right. So, and I mean also little things that make sure you have music that you like on, but also, just kind of realizing how silly it is. Like, if you had a camera in your car and you could watch yourself back, you'd be like, what is she doing?
It's almost like, it's like being the observer to the situation and seeing it from a higher perspective. It's like, what's really going on here? Because you're so in the midst of like your own doomsday, but it's not really that bad.
And half the time, if the driver next to you is making you angry, it's probably something else in your life that was already making you angry, and it just became a trigger.
Yeah.
Identifying triggers is another super important thing. Unfortunately, we blew through a half hour somehow, that magically and quickly. I feel like there's so much more I would love to talk to you about. Maybe I'll be able to get you on my cooking show.
Oh, I would love to.
I would love a partner in the kitchen. Yeah. It may make it a little bit more fun. But just real quick for our viewers, if they want to get in touch with you, do you have a website or contact information?
Yeah, so my website is just my name. It's SamanthaCifelli.com. You can find me on Facebook as well. I do a lot of stuff through Facebook, so those are probably the best ways to contact me. And on my website, I have all my contact information there as well.
Yeah, so like your social media and all that.
Yeah, my email, everything, my phone number.
Great. And so you're not based out of any specific area, right? You work online. Mm-hmm. So people in California.
I have people in Australia.
Exactly, right. So you're reaching a global level of people, which is amazing. I mean, technology, social media, all of it is insane what's going on. And it's great. It's amazing. If you use it the right way, it's such an amazing tool. So I hope that the viewers reach out to you, because there's a lot more to learn than the little bit that we just dipped our toes into. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching this episode of Style Woodbridge. I hope you'll tune in for the next part of our self-love series.